My name is Jordan Arcement, Director of Player Development at LSU, and you're watching FanView Podcast.
Welcome everybody, another edition of FanView Podcast. Y'all already know what it is. I'm that boy Fred.
G-Sportz back at it.
We got more special guests, G-Sportz. We in the building. We got the newly promoted LSU director of player development.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Appreciate
Mr.
y'all having me, man.
Man, listen,
FanView
let
done
everybody
came
know
a
who you
long
are,
way.
Mr. Jordan.
Oh man, Jordan Arcement, Bayou native, man, Thibodaux, Louisiana.
Tri-Paris stand up.
Tribe Parish, me and my guy G, real passionate about that particular place. Met G a while ago, man. We really shared a passion for these kids and getting them to where they're going, and he continued to progress in his own retrospect in this media
Absolutely.
stuff, and then I kind of just kept taking it to another level from the football side, man. But Thibodaux, born and raised, played football at Nichols, coached high school football in the area, and then moved on to college. Spent some time at the University of Virginia. Had some time in between, kind of doing my own thing in the NIL space, and then came back to college football at LSU with Coach Kelly, and super thankful that I did.
Whew. Nah, well, we always on this podcast like to dive into y'all journey, man. And I know your story from front to back. You went through some injuries at Nichols. You lost your father when you was extremely young. You had a kid you was mentoring in high school, Devontae Martin, who lost his mother. Dad got incarcerated.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of different things you went through, Jordan. That I think that got you where you at today, as far as character wise and where you at career wise. uh Kind of take me back to, from losing your father, growing up with just your mom, and getting in high school, and when you got to Ellender, when you had Devontae and Martin gravitating towards you when he found his mother dead, that morning before he went to school, and his daddy getting incarcerated, and just all of the trials and tribulations you went through this journey before you got to LSU.
Man, yes, it's been a lot and it's been a long journey. And I think what's really interesting about it is watching it come full circle. And I think a lot of times we question God. You know what I mean? I know I did, especially with some of the hard times of losing my father and then having injury. I didn't know why. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
for a long time, I think we don't know why until we do.
Right, right.
And I think losing my father and it has drawn me towards people who have lost parents. You know what I mean?
And
I think
how old were you when you
I was
lost?
11.
Lord.
Yeah,
That's tough.
yeah, no doubt,
That's
no
tough.
doubt, and it's tough at any age, right? But it,
Right.
it gave me a
At least as
real
an adult, you think you can sustain yourself at some point, but as a teenager,
Yeah. Well,
it's
11 years
massive.
old,
11.
not even a
It's
teenager.
massive.
yeah. Well, it just let me know that you can't take life for granted, and I understand now that that's part of life. Like everybody, we all have a time limit here, and you don't know when it's gonna come to an end. You know what I mean? So losing somebody that close to me showed me that shoot, if the person who was the closest to me was lost, then what's to say somebody, you know, two steps to the right or two
Two
steps
to
to
the
the left
left.
couldn't go, but um and it was kind of the same thing with the injury. I had somebody tell me before I started playing football at Nichols, because I actually had a year in between. I didn't, and even with the grade perspective, right? Like I couldn't play my first year. I would have had to gray shirt or whatever you
Hmm.
call it. You know what I mean? So I sat out and then played after that first year. But I thought about not. And then a girl had told me, I feel like God spoke to me and said you should play football at Nichols, and I'm like, what? I'm like, feel like, am I about to go to the
What?
league? You know what I'm saying? Like, what's going on here? You know what I mean? And then to have those injuries and wonder why it happened at all, right? But then to just see how it came full circle in the sense of my receiver coach being at the University of Virginia, my special teams coordinator being at the University of Virginia, and those dudes actually being the reason that I ended up at UVA, right?
UVA.
After I was coaching high school and Coach Tay Martin and got a chance to handle this process and meet a lot of college coaches and learn the game. You know what I mean? And my network really grew, and I started to see why certain things happen to me because I can pay it forward and help others because people were always there to help me through my journey. You know what I mean? I think that's my biggest piece is always trying to pay it forward and help the next man because shoot, it's tough to get where you're going without any help.
When you started coaching at Ellender though, and Edie White for that matter, you wasn't even thinking about getting into college football. I think when
Yeah.
when Tay started getting recruited and you was the guy everybody was coming talk to at Ellender.
Yeah.
When the coaches was coming, they was calling Jordan and saying, "Hey, open the gym door, I'm coming through."
Right.
And I think that's what made you get interested in college football. Am I right?
No doubt. I mean, when I started coaching Edie White, it was just because it was I just love football. I was my football career ended because of injury. Like, what am I gonna do now?
Right.
I want to play football, you know. So
Right.
naturally, I was playing in Nichols. I was in Thibodeau. Here's Edie White, a place that I played football at, and of course the coaches I still had rapport with. You know, they were big in my life, so I went go help, and then I was like, you know what, like, nah, this is not for me, right? I at least knew, you know, and no offense to Edie White, I played there, right, but I wanted to be around a group. I wanted athletes who were gonna go to that next
next
level
level.
consistently, right?
Right.
And my college teammates, Jesse Turner, who's now the head coach, you know, at Ellender, and you know, Marcus Washington, who was coaching there as well. And it just again, that football world is so small, and relationships, right? They called me. I wasn't. I was looking for a job. You know what I mean? And then it just so happened, you know, that
Yeah, you was looking to do insurance. What you was
I
trying to
didn't
do?
know what I was about to do, bro. I was, you know, some sales people, you know,
Yeah.
and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go check out Ellender, you know, and I remember Coach McCormick was selling me this receiving core, and you know, he's telling me about Tay and stuff, and I showed up at a 7-on-7 event to decide if I was gonna, you know, take this job, and I think Tay caught like, I mean, it was so ridiculous. He caught
Yeah.
like 7 touchdowns that
When
day,
he didn't
and
do anything ridiculous.
yeah, yeah. It ended on a bomb and him going over somebody, you know, and throwing the ball. And I'm like, and I got in the car afterwards and called one of my friends and was like, man, I think I'm about to coach somebody who could play in the NFL, you know. And we started to take that journey. But yeah, I think it was that, you know, sitting in that office and the coaches coming and talking about it, and I just kind of, you know, I fell in love with football again, but from a different avenue, right? Before it was playing in that process of preparing to play, and then now it was preparing people to do it.
Helping.
Yeah, helping, and I
That
loved it.
transition from every person seems to be a challenge, but also intriguing
Yeah.
at the
Yeah,
same time. Because
It's gratifying.
it's gratifying because when you're a former player, you know what your abilities are, right? And you trying to dissect. So I know I was able to do. I know I was able to do it. But now you're watching somebody else compete, and you have to put your abilities and egos to the side
yeah,
to help elevate that guy because it's their time now.
no doubt.
It's some for I hear for some former coaches saying, listen, it's because you want players to do what you did or exceed you, but sometimes it's gratifying because you can help those kids excel.
Nah,
such a high
no
level.
doubt, no doubt, because it's definitely a difference of playing and teaching. Some people can do it, but others can show you how to. But not everybody has that gift, you know.
Yeah.
And I truly believe you, when being at Ellender and helping Tate through his process, I remember it like it was yesterday. And I think that is the reason why you are so good at what you do at LSU right now. Because that was almost like a job interview. That was almost like what you call it when you're trying to get a experience when you're in college and your
Internship.
It's almost like an internship.
Internship.
Absolutely.
You know
no,
what I mean?
No, I think I'm in a unique place to where I've seen this process from every single angle, from coming up and playing college football, and then to coaching high school, right, to then handling Tay's process, to then working in college, and then getting people to come to a school, then leaving and seeing the NIL side from another angle. Now being back on this side and seeing the NIL angle, and then now having Tay's little brother Zay, who his process is beginning, right? So now I'm on two sides to where I'm doing some recruiting, but also now fielding calls and setting up the same situation like before. So that's
Right.
really unique. So it's I can relate with parents really well because I've been in their shoes in a sense with Tay, and then I'm still in their shoes because here's Zay, and maybe they're in the same grade or grade or whatever behind, so we can share stories and
Yeah.
insight and just knowledge on even myself having gone through it before. I'll give them some insight on what it's like to go through it and what you should look for. You know what I mean? I believe in keeping it real, and I think that's kind of a lost art now in recruiting, right? So I think it's what separates people is if you do keep it real. You know?
I want to go back to some adversity you went through though, and I know it's gonna make you laugh when I bring it up. And me and you talked about this a couple times. I think this is another reason why you're so successful at what you're doing today. When you was going to be a scout for the Cardinals, right?
Yeah.
What happened on the job interview? You spelled something wrong? What happened?
Yeah, man, and it really showed me attention to detail. You know what I mean? And it's really the little things that separate people. But
Right.
it's an interesting story, and I think people can take something from it, right? So when I knew, somebody changed my life, man. Mr. John Degg, he worked on my leg. I had 5 knee surgeries, and he was who helped me push through that. And he had a friend who was working in the NFL, Mr. Terry McDonough, who was at the Arizona Cardinals at the time. I forgot what his title was, maybe like assistant GM or maybe it was director of player personnel, something like that. And Mr. John used to go to the Senior Bowl every year to see Mr. Terry, and all I said was something like, "That would be a cool job." I just said something small like that. I didn't say put me on. I didn't say this is what I want to do. I said that sounds like a cool job.
Right.
And Mr. John came back from the Senior Bowl and was like, "I think I got an opportunity for you." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "The NFL." I'm like, "NFL?" And that's kind of how it began, where Mr. Terry called me. He told me to take a course, the Scouting Academy by Dan Hatman, which was really insightful and taught me a lot. And at the end of that course, or really in the middle of the course, he called with the opportunity to go interview, you know what I mean? And everything was just bang, bang, and I was trying to finish that course and I'm working on a resume, and I actually, I saved it on either, it was a resume, like just a doc, right, that you type in. And I was doing it in a hurry and I was feeling like I was just spelling well because no red lines was coming up underneath, you know what I mean?
Hold up. You were using Microsoft Word?
It wasn't on Word, it was a template, right? So another lesson learned, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Use Word.
He was a pad.
Yeah, using Word,
Right.
right? I wanted to
Right.
look nice, right? But I had something misspelled on the resume, and it was literally that little bit of detail that made the difference for me getting a job with the Cardinals or not. Now, luckily, I had people in places at UVA, right, when I didn't get that job, and then got a chance to go to University of Virginia. And then in hindsight, even since then, I had the opportunity to go to NFL, and I'd rather stay in college because of the relationship piece. So I think it was a lesson learned in the sense of the little things, right, and what separates people when it comes to that level, attention to
Right.
detail, and it made me a lot more that, and then I ended up right where I was supposed to be, and here I am right now, and I
If
do.
that when I remember when that happened to you, and I remember you telling me this story, and you were so devastated. But looking back on it, it all
Yeah,
happened for a reason.
yeah, no doubt, no
That one
doubt.
small detail they couldn't overlook it.
What
Man,
word was it?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I try to forget that part of the journey. You know what I
Oh my God!
One word, bro. One word was
listen.
spelled wrong.
Listen, I get it. I fully understand that. You know what? We're in a world where being efficient and being productive is at an all-time high. But I'm willing to overlook a word. If I'm the guy who's making decisions and I think somebody can improve,
This a $1 billion corporation we're
Right.
talking about now.
And I
understand.
had no prior experience to that. So, like, I mean, if it was something that separated the candidates, right, he's giving me a shot, you know what I mean? And whatever. I took it in stride, and here we are. So, like you said, I mean, lesson learned, and it all happens for a reason, man.
They all have a way of coming back around. I tell you about that. If you keep improving and keep impressing and keep being efficient, man, things have a way of boomeranging. The next time you boomerang, they probably boomerang with a bigger check.
Yeah.
A bigger stipend for you. And more importantly, their position is more valuable now because at the end of the day, they know that they've seen progress in that journey and in that path. But man, let's talk about your current destination, LSU. You guys had a heck of a 2022 season. I mean, it started off with a loss. to Florida State.
Coach Dave was on here Monday night,
Yeah.
and he was talking about how they had a parade in the dome on y'all, man. And, y'all thought y'all was going to, come out with a W, but he said they had other plans. Him and
Other
Coach
plans.
Norvell.
Yeah.
We got something for Dave, man.
I don't know, man. My guy said, look, it's almost Friday.
He got the Dave shirt
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
All right.
I started to wear mine today,
It's
but I ain't
almost
wearing it.
Friday.
I ain't wear mine.
I
It's
see y'all
almost Friday.
teaming up on me. This is a setup, This Florida State gang in here, man.
Well, listen, man. throughout the season of last year, um, Jaden Daniels got a lot of criticism in the first few games, especially during the Florida State game. Obviously, we're not gonna count the Southern game because he played a portion in that. Um, the Mississippi State game where he started to come on, but the breakout game was Florida. That was the game that he put the SEC and LSU back into the spotlight. Man, talk about the progress you've seen in Jaden Daniels throughout his 2022 season, being a transfer from Arizona State.
Man, no, really, really impressed by Jaden by the way he handles a lot of things. You know what I mean? From that adversity and people saying, "Can he do it?" Right after we take that loss, because football is a "What have you done for me lately?" type of game.
Yes.
We take that loss and the sky's falling kind of deal, right? Even though it's game one and we had a hell of a second half, and he
Right.
led us on a charge to score from 99 yards at the end of that game. Um, his progression, I think he had to just get comfortable in the offense, right? This is a new
New
system. He was in
system.
another system for years, right? And then to come and just the adjustment to this league and this system, and then once he grasped it, then you just saw this, and even now, right? We only two practices in spring, but you can see his off-season progression too. He really attacked the off-season, and I think he really wants to get better, and that's impressive, right? Not everybody has that trait to put their foot on the gas. Some people get comfortable, especially you win 10 games and go to the SEC championship, right? You feel like I'm that guy, but he has bigger aspirations than that, and he wants to lead us to a championship. So it's been cool to see his progression, and I'm ready to get back, right? We off this week with spring break. I'm ready to get back and see practice and just continue to see that progression to just, to know what we'll be this year.
Know what you
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. Uh, it's no secret. NIL is the new thing on the block
Yep.
in college football, and you are very, very familiar in that space. And we didn't expect it to be so wild as like it's been. You know, the quarterback Rashada. Um, they say Florida
For
had a
Florida.
$13 million NIL deal set up for him, and he signed his national letter of intent, and then he got out of it in some type of way because Florida didn't come on, they didn't come through
They didn't come through
with the
NIL
NIL.
deal.
You know what I mean? And so, how has NIL changed college football in your mind, and what are the pros and cons going forward?
Well, I think the first thing is the misconception. Like, when you speak on a athlete in a university, it's not actually that university, and that's what makes it tricky because it's all third party, right? The university cannot um, connect those dots, or the university is not paying out, right? So when you speak on a college that didn't come through, it really was just a third party that was affiliated,
Hmm.
So for
But
that
the
college,
headlines gonna
no
say
doubt,
the school.
and for the
Right.
college, it makes it tough, right?
Yeah.
Because shoot, how much, like
Yeah.
you're not in that room. You know what I
Right.
mean? So,
Right. Only
um,
after you had this kind of deal back in 2002.
man, look, this is definitely the time to play college sports
Football.
now.
Yeah.
So, but no, it's definitely changed the landscape of things. And it's
Absolutely.
evolving daily.
Oh,
You know what I mean? Daily. You know what I mean? We're just hearing the changes and what's to come, and I think everybody's curious on how it will continue to evolve and to see, I guess, how much rule and regulations will come around it. But I think. It's definitely good for the athletes,
Hmm.
and
I
we see guys all the
I agree.
time who come from real poverty situations, in football, in sports in general, really, you never know when's your last snap or last play, and to
Facts.
make it to the league, which is everybody, well, probably all of us thought that's what we
Right.
were doing,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And,
That one
and
percent.
yeah, and that's the check that you're chasing, but a lot of times you don't ever get to that check,
Yep.
so if you can start your life off with a bank account that looks pretty and actually learn some business in the meantime and how to be an entrepreneur, because that's what they are, right? They're getting business deals from different angles and able to
Correct.
start an LLC and learn about taxes and learn how to write things off. We have people coming in to teach them financial literacy. We had a whole tax seminar essentially, right, with a lady who was really impressive, who works with NFL athletes and can speak on guys who didn't pay taxes and how serious that is, and that the IRS is, what their living rooms look like with paperwork because the IRS is after them. Because when you're a young man with a pocket full of money, you don't think about that part. You
Right.
think taxes. You don't.
Taxes.
You thinking it's gonna be a slap on the wrist. And
Yeah. Ask why
Uncle
she's
Sam,
nice.
yeah, yeah, Uncle Sam is not playing. So um, it, it's a learning experience for them, and even for the guys that we've seen all these years, right? Like NFL, not for long, and then you see the guys who go broke. You see the documentaries. To me, if you can get a crash course with less money, and if you end up messing it up, maybe you did mess it up. You didn't have the right people around you. It was on a much smaller scale, and you can fix it. And then you come into some real money, and now you get it right. So I try to look at all of the positive things, and those guys being able to even change some of the family dynamic. Get your
Yep.
little brother and sister some school clothes. I know one of our guys, he was able to get a new car, so he gave his little brother a car. Their daddy had died, so he's like his father figure. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
stuff that's powerful, that I just want to continue to see more of.
Go ahead, G.
So with the NIL space, Billy Napier came out and said that he feels the NCAA should make it to where they can't start accepting NIL deals till they're going into their third year.
Going third year.
And I seen a couple other coaches kind of was in agreement to that. What's your take on that?
I don't agree because it goes back to the very beginning on why the rule passed. Now it has evolved and it got a little hectic, you know what I mean? But what it was supposed to do was just allow you to capitalize on who you are.
Hmm.
If you happen to be the most popular individual in a particular place and a business wants you to represent them on a commercial, a billboard, on social media, prior you weren't allowed to do that. But if a little girl or boy was awesome at singing, right, and I gave this analogy before, was awesome at singing, they're 12 years old and you wanted to be on the cereal box, that was more than,
Right.
great. They're a
Yep.
face there on a commercial,
Yeah, they could be on
right?
Kellogg's.
But if you're good at sports, you can't do that. So to me, by saying that you wouldn't be able to capitalize until your third year, now we're putting restrictions back on those people. Now, I think it was supposed to be who was the most marketable would be who would capitalize the most, and we've seen kind of some it not necessarily go that direction, which I think is why people want to see a little bit more direction around it. But I don't think
I think the reason why Napier feels that way, me and him just kind of was discussing it, is because you start worrying about, okay, let's just take the running back room. The starting running back is getting X amount of dollars. The second string running back is getting less than that, and the third string running back is getting less than that. It kind of creates a controversy and a little jealousy. So he feels that you shouldn't be able to capitalize on NIL till your third year. And I think was it, I don't know if it was Lincoln Riley. I don't know what coach it was, but he feels like every player should get paid the same all across the board. What's your take on that?
I mean, we're gonna say the same thing about the NFL. You know what I mean? Like you have a locker room to where there's a difference in price in that particular locker room, and especially with NIL, we're supposed to be talking about marketing, right? So if we're on the same NFL team and I'm more marketable than you, you're gonna be mad at me because
Right.
I'm more marketable than you.
Right.
You got to get more marketable. You know what I mean? Build your brand.
Build your
You know what I
brand.
mean? Have somebody there to take pictures of
Yeah.
you, capture, build that social media following, and you're not relying on anybody but yourself to put yourself out there and to continue to make who you are known to where people want to get involved and some of these guys are getting very quality representation, so put your representation to test and have them shop you and market you, and if they're getting you deals, then you got the right guy. If they can't do much anything for you, then maybe it's time to continue to shop as you leading up into the league.
But now here's my question about the NIL. Has it ever become to where it's become a distraction for the athlete? Obviously, they're a student first, but you got kids who are probably not more focused on. Because we hear the advertisement, we hear this guy got this promotion, this guy got this. We hear all the highlights, we hear all the advertisement, we hear what guys are saying about they supposedly getting. Has that become a distraction to you think to students, thinking that we are here, we are students first. Not to say that you're not here to play football. We're not saying that you're not here to maximize an NIL. However, not everybody's going to be playing on Sundays. 90% of us, the helmet is done once Saturdays are done.
All right.
So has that created any sort of distraction, do you think, to the student athlete?
Yeah, I haven't seen a ton of it. I think the the boys don't want to do a ton as far as going out and being present at certain things. I've seen guys turn deals down in a sense because they don't want to go
Their
show
time.
up and do it. Yeah, their time is so small, and you have to get school right, or you can't play. And then
Right.
for the most part, your top players are ultra competitors and they love football. You know what I mean? Now, if you got some guys in your locker room who don't love football, maybe they would get distracted. Then on the front end, I think it's our job to identify who loves football and who doesn't. If you did a bad job of identifying that early, and you can tell some of that, right? By we go back to social media by following their social media and seeing who they are leading up, and you'll know like this may be something that he may get distracted. Can he
Right.
help us? Does he fit our culture? So I think it kind of goes around the culture of your organization, and if you don't have any, then maybe there will be some distractions.
No doubt.
Mm.
Uh, I talk to kids, parents all the time, even coaches, and it just seems to me the more people I talk to, the more I start to understand that people just don't understand recruiting. They don't understand why their kid is not getting recruited by this school and this school and this school.
They hear the highlights, G.
People don't understand height, weight, and speed, how much that matters, measurables. Um, give your take on recruiting as a whole right now, man. When especially at a school like LSU, when y'all identifying talent and who you feel like, or as a staff, y'all feel like can be a part of y'all program and make an impact. What are y'all looking for? What's the different dynamics that come into play where y'all say, okay, this kid could play here in the SEC and be an impact player?
Yeah, I think um, first and foremost, if you go to a SEC football game or a SEC football practice and you up close in person and you see how large of humans these people are, it puts in a perspective as a parent or as someone leading someone's process. If you've never been that up and close, you think big is not what we consider big.
Yeah,
You
you
know what I'm saying? So
the,
height,
t-
weight, speed.
the TV been lying to you all this time.
Right. So height, weight, speed. First and foremost, it matters, right? Because you need a large human, but then you need somebody who is really athletic. You know what I mean? That piece is huge. Multi-sport athletes, and I think sometimes high school parents get caught up on stats, right? Like my son led the area in this.
Or
My,
accolades?
Yeah,
yeah,
accolades.
he was
He was all
first
district.
team all district. You know what I mean? And
All
no,
district.
those things are great, but it's about projection, and it's not so much about stats. It's not so much about what he did right now, but what he can do in the future. And that's what we have a staff of people to do is to look at the height, weight, speed, and athletic ability and see how they would fit our system, and then what they would turn into. And I think it's even the same thing in NFL. You see guys go first round who might have not led the nation in whatever particular
It's the
stat
measurable.
line that was. It
That's
was the
correct.
measurables, their athletic ability,
Ability.
right, and what they projected him to be once he was in that system and got that particular coaching.
I don't disagree with that whatsoever, because when you start looking at it, you see a lot of kids who put up a lot of. But then again, people ask you want that Bob with that somebody with that dog. And
Yeah.
the kid who may have the stats might have that dog, but
Hmm.
when you put him in a room with, let's say he play running back, when you put him in a room with some other guys who might have that dog too, but they have the higher measurables, you're looking at, again, it goes back to what you're saying. You're going to looking at saying, okay, what his potential can be. You're not saying this
Yeah.
guy can't play at this level.
No doubt.
You're just simply saying that if you had to choose between, if I got a Derrick Henry in this room, and this guy has every measurable you could think about,
Right.
and if he got that dog, no offense to your son, he gotta wait. Now, do
Well,
he want to wait, or do he want to go somewhere else where he could live out his dream?
and it's
Right.
not to say that undersized players can't play at this level they
Not
have.
at
I
all.
mean, we've seen
We've
it,
seen
right?
it.
We
We've
Tyron
seen
Matthew. There's been
Many
Clyde Edwards
examples.
yeah, there's a
Many
ton,
examples.
right? But
Many examples.
it goes to this. It has to fit, right? So if you already have one of those guys on your roster at that particular position or in that room, you can't keep taking them because now your room becomes small.
Small.
And if the whole secondary is small, now it's an issue as you match up with other teams. Now, if you take one who's a freak and he's undersized and he fits that mold, that's great. Now, whenever he leaves, it's time to get another one.
Right.
Correct.
But you can't just say, well, they start giving you the examples of who's done it and who does it in the league, and it's like, I know, and we have one like that right now.
Right.
So if we took all four of the ones that y'all selling, now our whole secondary is 5'9". And again, there's nothing against 5'9" DBs. They play in the NFL.
Correct.
But we can't have that over and over again. It has to make
It has
sense,
to make
you know.
sense. Yeah, but parents are trying to understand that they see their kid
Yeah.
and they see their kid want to play. You know, their dream. They've been talking about that kid and their dreams for. So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's their job as a parent. You know,
Right.
they want what's best for their child, and that's what
Right.
parents do. So I don't ever look at them in a negative light. It's just about educating them. You know,
Yep. Informing them.
and a lot of times it's well, come to camp. You know, we'll see where you stack up, and then even that is a realization because I know before. You know, we ever went on the camp circuit all those years ago. Like you get a sense of how good you think the particular area is or who's the best in that area and where they stack up, and then you put them in a place where now it's not just the tri-parish, but it's against New Orleans, it's against Baton
Baton
Rouge, it's
Rouge.
against Lafayette,
It's
it's now
North
some
Texas,
major
Florida.
cities.
Texas, Florida,
Yeah,
North Shore. Yeah,
and especially 7-on-7. Right now, it's a national scale, and you really get to see how. And sometimes it goes both ways. I've seen guys who didn't have the confidence because they looked at just the Jarvis and Odell and thought you had to be that good to make it, but then went against the nation and was like, "Oh, I'm pretty good." You know what I
Right.
mean? I thought that these dudes are way better than what they are, and then there's the other side to where you're the best in your city. You never traveled anywhere, and now you went to a camp or an event, and all of a sudden you got locked up or whatever happened
whatever
there that
happened.
humbled you to like, oh, okay, there's really levels to this, you know.
How important is the camps for kids when y'all evaluate, you put on their film and you say, man, this kid could play. And then when you get them on campus and they come to camp, you might feel differently about them, or vice versa. Like talk about
Yeah.
how much that plays a part into a kid's recruitment.
I think super important. I think it's important on both sides, and I tell kids and families this all the time. You know, if I was narrowing down schools, you know, because sometimes they look at it like I'm big time now, man. I don't camp no more. You know what I mean? Okay, and that's one way to look at it. You know,
Hmm.
but the other way to look at it is as you're making your decision as the athlete, now you're going to get coached by the person who's going to potentially develop you and get you to the NFL. So that's the goal, right? So if you're really making a decision and all you ever did was sit in a meeting room with them or on the phone with them and trying to build rapport, right? Do you want a coach or you want a best friend? Which one is it? Because sometimes in the recruiting process, I think kids are looking for who
A friend.
who talks
A
to them
friend.
the most. Man, they text me, call me every day. Like, well, that's what's up, man. Did he coach in the Super Bowl? Did he get such and such there?
Right,
You know,
right.
you want a best friend or a coach because it takes a village. We'll have people around you for a relationship, but it doesn't always have to be your position coach that you have that best rapport with. So, in my opinion, you come to camp for us to see you. If you want an offer, it's the easiest way to get it. If you look the part and you ball today, it's hard to tell you no. Right?
Opportunity.
Opportunity. You know what I mean? So, but also with what I spoke on in as the athlete,
Right.
you evaluating who can develop you to your very best as well.
And so there's another question a lot of parents always trying to ask and be educated on. I try my best to inform them. And
Good luck.
and hearing it from somebody like you, I know it's going to do wonders for a lot of people that's going to watch this podcast. When schools are offering kids, I try to explain to them that. So let's just take DB for example. Let's say Oklahoma University. They plan on taking 5 DBs in this class,
They need to take them all.
right?
Go ahead.
They need them. But say they taking 5 DBs in this 2024 class, but they offer 25 kids. And a lot of parents say, well, why are they offering all these kids if they only going to take 5? Explain that process.
You have to. I mean, because this is I mean, look, there's a ton of colleges out there, right? There's a ton of athletes out there. If this was the draft, you wouldn't do that. You would just say who you wanted, and you would pick them whenever it's your time. But this is not the draft, and we have to build relationships. We have to build rapport. You have to stack a board. You have to see where the cookies crumble. And as time goes on, that 25 it surely shrinks. Maybe you have to offer some more to have more options on who you're going to get. It depends once you start accepting commitments and once people start to commit. But if you just offered only 5 people taking 5, what if 3 of them say, I'm
I'm going somewhere
going
else.
somewhere else?
Right.
Then you're stuck. You
With
stuck
2.
with yeah. Then
It's
you
a business.
You can't fill your
You
roster.
can't fill your roster.
And I hear sometimes people say things like, "Well, I don't want to go there because they DB room's full." Well, this isn't high school. You know, in high school you might fall in where you're the only corner on the whole roster, so
Right.
they makeshift. We have to have a room full of corners. It is about having a healthy roster. And there's a set amount of number per position that are in each room. So anywhere you go is gonna have a full room. Now maybe their years are different. They might have 3 that are seniors, and coming in you have a better shot because everybody who had experience is gone. But if it's just about numbers and who's going to be in the room, it's always going to be full. It's our job to keep it full, you know. So, and that's why you have to, just we go back to offering to fit, right? You might not offer 25 in a particular year because you might only be taking two, right?
Right.
So then the number you offer is going to be smaller because you kind of
It might
pinpoint
be
on who
10.
you want. You set your board, you know who you're going after. But if he says no, then what? We have to, you got to keep going, you
Yeah.
know.
Now,
Yeah.
to piggy off what G Sports is saying, to add to that question, the, now we got the transfer portal. We got the real Wild Wild West.
Hmm.
We got the college football free agency. How that included in recruiting now has changed the landscape. But now when you have a board now you're just not evaluating
Yeah.
that the upcoming senior now. You evaluating somebody who's at JUCO. You've been evaluating somebody who you didn't, who signed at, let's say, potentially Alabama now, but now he's back in the portal. You recruiting that guy again. So how has all that not changed the landscape of college football in terms of recruiting?
Longer nights for sure.
Man,
Longer
look,
nights in the building.
Look, Georgia did this.
boy, look, after January 18th, I needed some sleep. And that date is when the portal closed, right? The first window, because it was hectic. Even after signing day, we were still up and at it from our own team to trying to sign guys out of that portal. I think what it's done, the good is, I mean, you can remake a roster overnight, and it doesn't hold you as accountable for your misses. So like either
TCU, for example.
yeah, yeah. So either you missed the previous year and you can replace with somebody who's established, or you went down the stretch with a guy you didn't sign him. So then right after signing day, that portal window's still open. You could just go get a guy who played in college. You might have had anticipation of signing a high school kid, but then it changed to college. So but what's really tough about it is the revolving door, because you may not be planning to go into the portal for a particular position, but then when the window opens, here's two dudes off your team that go. So now you're in the market. So even prior to you,
Right.
we, yesterday, and then all of a sudden, zoom, it's like, oh, all right,
Correct.
who's available, and now you try to get them. And I think relationships, obviously when they sign somewhere else, you can't continue that rapport because NCAA rule, but even on the front end of having rapport, right, and if they go elsewhere, well, there might be a chance that they remembered that relationship they had with you, and then when they enter the portal, they reach out to you like, "Hey, coach, would y'all still take me?" And sometimes the answer is yes, sometimes the answer is no, and it kind of depends on
How they
how they
recruit.
handled their process. Because I
Hmm.
think sometimes people handle a process the right way and the wrong way, and you can handle it the wrong way and rub some people the wrong way. And then on the flip side, it's like we're not going to deal with that drama again, But if you handled it the right way and everybody was transparent on our side and your side, and you chose to go elsewhere because it was a better fit, I respect that. You
Right.
kept it real, I kept it real. Man, look, I'm rooting for you. Now, if it didn't work out, for sure,
Sure.
still want you. But if it was lies and telling you one thing and then another thing happened, or something like,
Misdirection, distractions,
yeah, it's
just
like
being,
we're not gonna go down this
not
road, man. We're
genuine,
not going down this road. There's a ton of kids out there. You know what I mean? We can find somebody else who fits the mold.
Right. Right. There's a ton of trainers out there, man. I wish when I was coming out back in 2003 that I had this kind of access to get trained. I think that would have did wonders for me and a lot of kids that I grew up with. I mean, every time you look on social media, there's a trainer here, a trainer there, a trainer here. And
shit, half of them look like bodybuilders now. They look like
but
straight bodybuilders.
but where I'm going with this is it's like half the room don't like the trainers and half the room like the trainers. And I remember, back in the day when me and you first met, you was training kids and you was doing a great job of developing kids and not only training them but guiding them and mentoring them in that
Right.
process. What's your take on the state of how kids are getting trained these days and what they should look for when they're trying to get trained by somebody?
I think trainers are a plus, but I do think you have to be selective with who you put or allow in your circle and in your process, right? And that goes to having discernment and judgment, and maybe just seeing the proof in the pudding, right? Like who came before you, who was developed before you, where are they at now, speaking to that person, speaking to their family, and what type of interactions did they have with that particular trainer, and how did it add value to their process if they are in their process, right? Maybe
Hmm.
it's just development, and then you
Hmm.
on your own for your process, right? But uh, you know, we see sometimes guys have all of the tools but have no skill set, right?
Right.
They never got trained, And if they would have, they may be a whole nother level. You know what I mean? So I think there is a importance in having that on your team and in your corner. But you just have to be selective about who it is because you don't want to learn bad habits either.
Right. And you think that's why half the room doesn't really care for trainers because they're teaching them bad habits.
Bad habits, or they selected the wrong person to allow in their circle.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, but see, the thing is, when it comes to training now, it's become somewhat part of the process now.
Yeah.
Because if you're a kid and you raw, you may be a freak of nature, but how do you fine tune some of these things? Yeah, you go to practice, you may work out, but to really get it fine tuned now, to really play at the college football level now, I think training is something that's just is critical
No doubt.
because the game has changed. It's not when you go watch the game of college football. This is we ain't got to go 30. We could go 20. We are early 2000s. You're looking at guys who just weightlifting. They was kind of big, maybe a little shifty, but you can look at the game and say them guys weren't really trained. They just had ability.
I mean, back then we was playing in the playground.
That's that exactly.
Playing every
Playing
day.
outside,
We waking
playing
up
the
at 9
playground.
o'clock in the morning. Man, meet us at the field.
Yeah.
We playing throw up tackle.
Tackle.
We playing
Exactly.
tackle football from
Exactly.
9 o'clock in the morning till it get nighttime. So that
Exactly.
was our training back then.
Exactly. And I would say probably beginning of the 2010s, you start seeing some real freakish athletic dude. I remember one point in time, man, we were watching the game of football. Man, somebody making a one-hand catch was like you thought that guy was God.
Right.
Like
right.
you thought he was God.
Like when Randy Moss started
like
doing
Randy Moss or what Chris Carter was doing, and you was like, man, you couldn't just do that.
it. Right. It was
You
rare.
watching guys do this now in their sleep. Like you be like, bro, what? And so you start to see the training. That's training. That's somebody who really. All we had was the jug balls, bro. This that's all we had.
We didn't even have jugs when we was coming out.
No, exactly. So, but what I'm saying is, training now is such a critical part to a kid's development now because I'm watching kids. I'm using an example. Using LSU for example. I'm looking at a kid like Harold Perkins. This kid's a freak of nature.
Yeah.
He's a freak of nature. But you could tell the way he plays, like, man, that guy really works on his craft. That guy look like he's been trained to play this position.
And some of it be genetics too.
And some of it is genetics. But I'm looking at his way he play, I'm like, bro, there's no way. They can't block this kid.
No, he's a freak.
He's a freak.
He's a freak.
He's a freak. He's a
Yeah.
freak. And you can look at it and you can say some of it's God-given ability. But it don't look how it appeared when I
Yeah.
used to watch this
Yeah.
as a kid.
Yeah.
No doubt.
That's
no,
what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, yeah, training definitely has changed the game, and I think even the internet and YouTube and even social media, because you can see it. Some people are different type of learners. Like some people have to go outside, you have to put your hands on them and show them. But there are other people who are visual learners. So when they see it, they can actually implement that in their game without having to be trained. They can kind of just do it themselves, you know. And I think with watching it and being able to see those videos, and you see a certain movement, you like, I'm gonna try it, and then you work on it, and you're super athletic, naturally you pick that up, you know. And with Harold, he does work on his craft. He is a super hard worker, but he's also super gifted. You know, like I watch Harold a lot because I just am fascinated by freakish athletes, right?
Right.
And I think it was the Florida week. We were
Freak.
it was like in walkthrough or something like that, and somebody threw the ball to Harold, you know, and he leaped off one leg and high pointed and like pirouette and landed, and I was like, he probably could, you know, play receiver or something. And then he landed, and a guy was running and put his hand up like throw it back, you know, and then he threw it with his left hand, spun it perfect spiral right over the shoulder, and in my mind I was just like, I mean, what can he?
What can he not do?
Yeah, if he would have chose to pursue a different position,
Could have
Tight
did it.
end.
well,
He could be a.
well, he was the top 5 running back in America.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Facts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
he chose to play the defensive side, and he excelled the way that he did as a freshman. If he would have chose to go another route, he would excel just the same, in my opinion. And by the way, he looks so much more lethal in that 4. You know what I mean? He's out the 40. Got my dog in the single digit, man. So I'm
deserved
ready
it.
to see him
He deserved it.
turn up this year in that 4.
Yeah. I think what always gravitated me towards you and how me and you got so connected way back then when you was coaching at Ellender was our passion to help kids, our passion to pour into kids and guide them. You know, I grew up in a single parent household. You grew up in a single parent household. We had a lot in common. Devontavian Martin, who we talked about earlier in this podcast, who plays for the 49ers, who you helped through his process, has a little brother, Zay Martin, who's been through a lot as well. You decided to take guardianship of Zay Martin and bring him along the ride with you, man, and help him through his process and be sort of a father figure in his life. Talk about the decision to do that, and how has that process been going for you so far?
Yeah, man. I remember Zay, whenever he was small. Whenever Tay was going through his process, and he was just a little kid who just wanted to be just like his big brother. You know what I mean? Would have did anything to be like Tay, and still to today. You know what I mean? Looks up to Tay so much, and I don't even know if Tay realized how much of impact he has on him.
Hmm.
But um, I stayed up with him through the years. Like when Tay left, the light was bright for him. He was going off to Washington State.
Right.
He was number one. You know what I mean? He's Tay Martin. You know what I mean? And I went off to Virginia, right, and tried to stay up with Zay, see his little stuff on social media, or when I was in town, I would come pop up on y'all. He's
Hmm.
doing his little track practice or whatever. And I had moved to Houston in between LSU and Virginia, and the hurricane happened. And it was devastating our area. You know what I mean? I remember going down there, it looked like a bomb went off. And Zay was staying in Houston with some relatives, and he hit me up just to get out the house to go do something. I brought him to the mall, and then I asked him if he wanted to go watch his brother play, because I was going all to his games. Was really the reason why I left college football, was to see him in his senior year.
Right.
And I brought him, and it was like his first little recruiting visit, on the sideline and stuff. And
Right.
he was super happy to do that. And then I asked, what was going to happen if we went back to home? Like, where was he going to stay? And he didn't have an answer to that question. You know what I mean? Because it was, he just was.
A lot was
It,
going on.
A lot was
a
going
lot
on.
was going on. You know what I mean? And his situation was rough. And I just was like, man, well, come stay with me. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be that way. If you wanna, you wanna do it a different way,
Right.
come stay with me. And I think at first he didn't really know how to answer that. And after about a week or so, he it was like kind of out of the blue. He texted me like, "I'm coming." You know what I mean? He wanted to come. He wanted to do that. And he came to Texas, right? I had him at the Woodlands, which was just a super culture shock. And uh,
Absolutely.
yeah, 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 for
Absolutely.
sure.
From the
So
Tribe Parish to the Woodlands.
The
yeah,
Woodlands, man.
Absolutely.
yeah.
The Woodlands,
Absolutely.
man.
G came
You
visit us there.
listen. You pop it. You pop it. If you in the Woodlands, you like. I made it.
I like the Woodlands.
Well, but it was just so different for him, right?
Right.
And you know, he grew, just having to learn to deal with people and different things. But it was really tough. And I mean, he was with me when we were still in Houston just for a little while. And then LSU stuff came up. I took this job, and he was super excited to come back to Louisiana. And then now is at U High, which still was a culture shock.
Shell
And then,
shock.
having gone to three high schools in one year,
Mm,
that's tough, even from an academic perspective, right? When just staying
correct.
on top of things, you switching classes and all. So that piece was challenging in year one in his ninth grade year, and then coming back this year for 10th grade. The teachers they've raved about just the change and what he's done around school.
Hmm.
And just being happy-go-lucky and making friends and excelling in sports, and you kind of see that turn on here's some stability and. He's growing, right? And his process is taking off. During the summer, he had got MVP at Nichols Camp and got his first offer. And then
Mm.
and Coach Brumfield, my guy, offered him at FIU. We'll see if he follows suit at Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
Brum, yeah. And,
Right.
and then he got a Grambling offer during 7-on-7 season. So it's been fun
That's Hugh
to
Jackson over
get
there, man.
his process going, man. And I'm happy for him. I'm proud of him, to see his progression and foot on the gas and bright future.
Man, listen. It's been an extraordinary journey. When you watch some of these kids coming up through the state, coming up through the ranks. What is one of the things you really want to tell some of these kids about expectations? You got so many kids out here right now that think that they're the cream of the crop, thinking they're a kid that nobody never seen before. What's your message to some of these kids who's coming up through the ranks through college for being recruited? That listen, you gotta have realistic expectations. What is your message to a lot of those kids coming up?
I would say don't complain about the results you didn't get from the work you didn't put in. You know what I mean? That's a big piece is having to work for it. And willing to grind and knowing what really working means. You know what I mean? You think you working, you go and play catch with your friend outside. Thinking you getting better to prepare for our level. That's not it. And The other thing is the big thing, and this is with the kids who are already getting recruited, right? Is understanding that you did not arrive, because with
Yeah.
this recruiting process, you get so much attention, you get so much hype, and people are telling you what you want to hear because they want to get you on campus. And I see sometimes where people's foot comes off the gas.
Right.
They think they made it because they have 4 stars next to their name or something
Yeah.
like that in the offer
Yeah.
list, right? But you haven't. You haven't even got to school yet. So if you don't come to school prepared, well, then don't expect to play as a freshman.
Right.
And then after you didn't play as a freshman, now you're ready to transfer. But really, was that because you got caught up in what came with it? You know what I mean? And just staying hungry and understanding that when you arrive on campus, it's all reset. It's all
Hmm.
reset. And if you play early and you play as a freshman, you're more inclined to get to where you need to go. And even if that's a special teams capacity, but you have to come prepared, and that takes staying hungry and understanding the work that you have to put in.
All right. Time to start some mess. LSU receiver room. Got some guys in there. Jare Jenkins.
Well, Jarvis Jenkins gone.
You gone?
Yeah, he
You
gone.
got Malik Neighbors still there. You got
Brian Thomas.
Brian Thomas, Kyron Lacey. Think that it is your LSU receiver room the best in the country.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
When you
And,
start thinking
and
about the names
yeah, and we have Aaron
coming out of there.
Anderson. And we have Aaron Anderson,
You
who,
got Aaron Anderson now.
was a number one player in
Number one pick.
Louisiana and is
Mhm.
now back home. We're thankful to have him. Super talented room, and you can see the progression just from last year. Um,
You could even add Mason Taylor to that if you want.
Yeah, you can. It's a stacked room.
it
It's a
is a
stacked
it is
room.
a stack
When
room.
we start thinking about going into the 2023 season, you start thinking about that. I remember me and G and here we was talking about the 2019 year, and we were like, y'all got the best receiver core in the country. If y'all don't win a natty, something
And they
wrong.
lived up to it.
They lived up to it. But this room here, I won't compare it to that room. But when you're looking at the landscape of college football, I mean, you're looking like one of the best receiver core rooms in the country.
Yeah.
From
I-
top to bottom
From
is
top
deep.
to bottom is deep. So when you start thinking about some of the names that's coming out of it, I mean, I think y'all got one of the best receiver cores in the country. And I think y'all have a potential Heisman Trophy candidate at the quarterback position.
Well, that's what everybody's selling. Everybody's saying when Joe Burrow came as a transfer, his first year was up and down.
Up and down.
And then he came back that second year, like,
In the rest is history.
blew it out the water.
Yeah.
Number one overall pick. The first year when he was at LSU, they were saying he might go six
It
rounds
was
to
a six-round
undrafted.
grade.
A lot of people think Jaden Daniels is in line to kind of, not saying he's going to do exactly what Joe Burrow did, but he's in line to have a really good season similar to what Joe Burrow did.
I think history does tend to repeat itself. So here we are, and only time will tell. And we're ready for Orlando, week 1. Dave.
Dave. My dude Dave. My dude Dave, man. It was all fun and games
It was
when he was
all
on
fun and
when he was on the
games,
podcast, man.
Yeah.
He loved competing against you guys because he know a
For
lot of them
sure.
guys on that
Mhm.
roster and coaches and stuff like that, like Cortez Hankton and Frank Wilson and people like that. So, I'm looking forward to that game down there in Orlando. I'm gonna try to make an appearance and see who comes out on top.
All I know is this, man. That receiver room for LSU, it's a stout room. It's a very, very stout room in the quarterback position. And I think the line has been solidified. I think we was all concerned with the two tackles being true freshmen. But it lived up to a
Oh,
lot
they
of
silenced all the
expectations. Man,
doubters.
Will Campbell is listen, boy, what?
Emory
Special
Jones,
players.
Oh, boy, he's special, guys.
Special, both.
Emory Jones.
Both.
Henry Jones too, but listen, they lived up to expectations. So no, you're looking at the protection, and you're saying to yourself, man, that offense should get more deep and more explosive this upcoming year. I'm excited about their receiving core. It's been a few years, but I'm
Yeah.
excited about it.
Me too, and I think iron sharpens iron. So it's good to have those guys in the same room compete versus each other, and to see who's gonna be the man. And I guess how it'll stack up. So It's fun to watch them compete, man. I'm thankful because I'm a receiver guy, so I love to watch
Yeah.
Right,
those dudes day in and day out. You know.
right. I do want to ask you this though. I believe that you can go coach in a receiver room at any college in the country. I truly believe that. Maybe I might be being a little biased because I've seen it firsthand for so many years. But what's the end game for Jordan Arcement, man? Is it staying in player development, the NIL space in college football, or is it possibly getting into a situation to where you have in your own room, coaching receivers at a higher level? Like, what is the end game for Jordan Arcement?
That's tough for me, man. It really is because this game is evolving. It's evolving so fast, and just from off the field perspective and different opportunity to do different things. I think I need to see the dust settle and how all of that goes and um, what that path looks like and what direction I would want to take there. I'd never say never to going on the field and having my own room. The situation would have to be right, and I appreciate you saying that, G. Because I am passionate about developing players, and with having
Right.
Zay in my house, and I get it, and Tay coming back, he's here right now, and get my coaching fix. That's always
Yeah,
fun,
yeah.
So
Right.
the situation had to be right, man. But I don't know, I think I'm just trusting God, and it got me this far, with just opportunity and doors opening, and then having discernment to know which one to walk through,
Yeah,
So
yeah.
time will tell, man. Time will tell.
I would love to see it.
I
I would
will
love to
too.
see it. How gratifying is it though? Just going back to your years before you got into college football, when you was training a lot of these kids, you know, preferably at the receiver position, seeing them figure it out and helping them with the nuances of how to be a receiver and being technical, and then watching that come full circle when they go to these college camps and when they get to college and play at a high level. Tell me how gratifying that is, man.
Yeah, it's awesome because you there putting in the work with them. It's like who was with me shooting in the gym, right?
Right.
And to know what they can be, and then to get some sort of buy-in, and then it yield results. I think it is gratifying for me, and then also it just you earn trust with that particular athlete, right? Because I told you this was going to happen if you put in the
Yeah,
work,
yeah.
and then you put in that work, and then it did happen, and being able to prepare them for that, I think is cool, and I still enjoy it. I mean, we've been doing this for some time, and when we were just this past summer at Nichols Camp and Zay getting MVP and getting an offer, that was cool, and just kind of reliving
Can't put a price on it.
where we started, and
Right.
seeing guys do it before him. I enjoy it, man. I really do. I do.
Now, I got a question for you. I want to stay at receivers because I'm always intrigued by receivers because that's the position that to me has evolved in the past 20 years. Like all positions to me, even quarterback. I don't think nothing has evolved more than receiver. That's just me. I don't care if it's at the college level or the pro level because of when I was coming and watching the game. All of us, it was mainly about just catching the ball. Like, okay, guy running out, can he catch it? Then it became about a one hand catch. Now it's about route running. Now it's about separation. Now it's about leverage. You get what I'm saying? So the position now has evolved like 3 or 4 times since 2000. You know, when you start to break the position down, like who, what are some of the things that you enjoy watching about what receivers do now versus probably when we were kids? When I was a kid, man, it was just Moss. Then I
Hmm.
saw Chad Johnson, and I'm like, man, I ain't never seen nobody with that kind
Right.
of footwork.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I ain't
Yeah.
never saw nobody like that could really just and
Hmm.
now you're watching a guy like Justin Jefferson. It's like you like, dog, don't get too close, dog. You're gonna embarrass yourself.
Right.
Then you watching a guy like Jamar Chase who could just in all facets of the game, whether it's ha, whether it's big body in you, and when we was kids, you probably used to watching the Larry Fitzgerald, like 50-50 ball, right? Then you got guys in this game now that could just do that. And you just like, how the position just evolved. Like, what part of the game of return receiver, like, you enjoy watching now? when you
Yeah.
really watch this position.
Real route runners, right?
Yeah.
Real route runners, and that's what you say, and it has evolved. But it starts at the line of scrimmage and being able to beat press, and then having a real package, and seeing guys who can get busy there, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times you'll notice they have a basketball background because that's all it is. It's playing basketball at the line, and it's a
It's a
crossover, right? So
crossover.
guys who
We
have,
weren't doing that when we was kids.
yeah, yeah,
Everybody went straight ahead.
right,
Nobody was. It was no ha ha. It was
right,
like it was a 1, 2, 3 plant, then cut,
yeah,
or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 plant, dig, or plant
yeah.
for it out. Nobody like that stuff. I was like,
No doubt. And
don't,
guys who are creative, right? It's becoming art, right? You win at the line and then
Sauce.
can do
Yeah.
different things with the weaving and coming inside, outside, and stuff at the top end, and then what you can do with the ball in your hands after the catch. I think that's really what'll separate you. Obviously, that 50-50, you know what I mean, and go and get those contested balls. But whenever you have the ball in your hands, can you get more out of it? And somebody had told me something that I liked. It was you make one miss, you can play on Fridays. Two miss, you
Mhm.
can play on
Coach
Saturdays.
Higgins.
Three miss, you play on Sundays. Yeah. Yeah,
woo.
so being able to do that and make those guys miss, I think that's what separates people nowadays, right? Because anybody can catch a first down, but who can catch it and turn upfield and go score, you know?
When you was at Virginia, you did a great job of. It was different from LSU. You had to go find those sleepers. You had to go find those diamond in the rough. You had to go find those kids where when you turn their film on, it might not jump out to you, but you could see certain traits and say to yourself, I think this could translate to that level.
Hmm.
What gave you that eye, man, to be able to watch somebody on tape and be able to tell if it could translate to that level? Because you did a good job, like Dontavian Wicks,
Hmm.
who's about to get drafted, man. I think that kid is a potential NFL starter.
Definitely.
Kid from Plaque, he's right there from Plaquemine.
Blackman.
What he had like maybe 3 or 4 scholarship offers coming
Yeah.
out of high school. And you found that kid, man. Just talk about being able to find those sleepers. How you did that at the University of
Yeah,
Virginia.
same basketball kid. He had basketball offers, and was somebody who flew on the radar and got a lot better from his junior year to his senior year. And he had those traits we talk about, right? The height and weight, them long arms, and could spring up and just dunk the basketball, dunk it in the lane. And you could just see that once he would be developed, he would turn into something special, and that's where Virginia, it had to be that way. You had to find someone who could project and be just as good as somebody who would play in the SEC. Because no offense to the University of Virginia, but we were getting the next tier kid. We weren't going to get
You're right.
the premier at
premier.
LSU. Now, I mean, it's Prince
different.
who's the best in the player. Let's go get him. You know what I mean? Over
It don't
there,
matter where they at in the country.
yeah, let's go.
Let's
You know
go.
what I mean? Who's the best players? Come on. You know what I mean? Now, there it was more about that eval process. But I thought it goes back to that class that I took and just investing in and taking time to learn. And when I say learn, it was positions that maybe I had never played before. The positions you play growing up, naturally you kind of know what to look for
You look
because
for.
you played those
Played
and
those.
you were around athletes and stuff like that. But it was the trenches that really, you had to learn. It was almost like going to a coaching clinic and then seeing it and being taught. But it took some of that and then just reps. But I think just like anything, you have a natural skill set for some things
Hmm.
and then can polish on it. You know what I mean? And
Right.
I think naturally, I always kind of knew who were the best players and where they should be. And that goes
Yeah.
back to park ball and
Yeah.
picking a team and being
Yeah.
a captain. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it just ended up paying dividends later.
Speaking of the University of Virginia, man, it was a bad tragedy that happened a few months back, and I know you know a lot of them guys, like Mike Hollins, who's right there from Baton Rouge, man. You helped get him to Virginia, and Lavelle Davis, the receiver. I know you was very familiar with him. I forgot the other kid name that died, but man, talk about you know going through that. Even though I know you're at LSU now, but you know a lot of those people that's still in that building over there in Virginia, and and how that took a toll on you, man, and how you dealt with that when you heard that news.
Man, uh, tough, tough, and uh, I don't think it was easy for anybody, you know what I mean, who knew those guys or was involved in that situation. Mike actually was the only survivor of that particular
Right.
incident with when we're talking about football players, right?
Mhm.
And he actually just practiced again for the first time. I think it was either yesterday or the day before. I
That's what's
saw it
up.
on social media, which was super exciting, and I think a lot of people's prayers answered, right? But whenever I heard the news, it didn't feel real in a sense, right? I knew they had a shooting, but I didn't know that anybody had passed, so it was just kind of like, well, what's going on, or trying to figure it out, and then calling there with some of the people who were still there, right? The Higgins family, who is, some of my best friends, Marcus Higgins and his wife Lauren, have been great to me, mentors of mine, right? To call and hear it in Lauren's voice as she was crying, because she really, in both of them, right? They
Because
take
that was
those,
his room.
Right.
yeah, yeah. Outside of I think one player was an outside linebacker,
Yeah.
but the rest, it was receivers, and they really take those kids on as family, and in this recruiting process, it's tough because like people entrust you with their children, and
Children,
it's not
yep.
to say that anybody or anyone could have done anything to prevent that situation, but to have to call and tell those families, or even just deal with the
Yeah,
grief of
man.
those families, man, it's really hard, and I know people are still grieving, because especially young kids like that, their lives being taken for nothing,
Senseless.
sad, 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 and thank God, Mike is able to play the game of football again. I know Dontavian Wicks is really playing for his teammates, and you see him recognize those guys a lot. And even in the Senior Bowl, he wore number one, which was Lavelle's number, right? And they did some other stuff in remembrance of those guys, but you know. It was hard,
It's
Then
hard.
they hear it when I heard it in their voice. I mean, it really takes you there. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Yeah.
uh, wasn't fun, wasn't a good day, and I feel for those families, praying for those families, and I hope tragedies like that stop,
Right.
because
Right.
it's senseless, man, and we see too much of it.
You think that because and we talked to Meek Robinson about it. We talked to Dejon Harris about it. We talked to Tajay Spears last night about it on the podcast, and it just you're just seeing more and more of some of these athletes that are just making some bad decisions. Whether it's Henry Ruggs going 100 miles per hour, killing somebody,
Right.
whether it's Alvin Kamara in Las Vegas in a nightclub beating up on somebody and getting caught on camera, whether it's Jalen Carter racing with one of his teammates and a staff member and they get in a crash
Get
and
in
dying.
crash.
So many different things are happening in sports because of bad decisions. Um, what are y'all doing at LSU, man, to kind of help and guide these kids and try to prevent, some of y'all athletes in that building, man, from making bad decisions like that?
I think that's tough because you never can truly eliminate it or prevent
Right.
it in total, but it's just about educating them, man, and having people in place, right, to have relationships and to talk through things like this and to show those examples and to speak on what it costed those guys. You know what I mean? And what you have at stake right now. I think sometimes their youth gets the best of them in the sense of not understanding what position they're in or taking for granted what position they're in because it came so easy to them sometimes. Like you just think you just at LSU and this is the life that you live in, but it can be taken away so
So
fast.
fast.
And it takes somebody come and share, right? And Tyron, he came and
Matthew?
yeah, Tyron Matthew came and spent like a week with us last year. Maybe it was a spring. I can't remember if it was spring or fall camp, but I mean, he talked for like 2 hours in the team room, just you know, off off the top, right? And it was just some real talk. And having people like that who are in their shoes coming back and share, because for him, right, he still ended up making it and being a multi-million-dollar man and getting a few different contracts,
Facts.
but it could have came to an end,
And
and it
he
just
was
so
dismissed from the team.
yes.
People just forget about it, but he was
Yes,
dismissed. It could have
after
ended.
after a freakish sophomore season, we didn't even
Yes.
get to see him in year three.
Yes.
He
Yes.
was up for the Heisman, and that was just year two,
Year
wearing
two.
seven. And sat out a year, and ended up, and it was Patrick Peterson seemed to be a huge support system for him, and going to the Cardinals and being able to go under his wing, and that's the brotherhood,
Before never got even. It's crazy. He got drafted by the Cardinals.
Yeah, yeah,
So Patrick Peterson went to the
Yeah.
gym like, draft him. I'm going to take care
Yeah.
of him. He going to live with me.
Yeah.
and
I got this.
and
Sure enough, he
Tyron
did.
did an excellent job of turning it around. because he could have just tucked his tail and quit and never show face. And
And made
he was
excuses.
the guy who was supposed to make it. You know what I mean? You hear those dudes all the
Right.
time, right? But having guys come in and speak like that, I think it just resonates more hearing it from people who are in your shoes sometimes than just hearing it from us. And hearing it from us does resonate too, and that's what I think we want to do collectively is have people who can relate to those boys and speak to different events like that and try to help them, stay clear.
No doubt, man. I've been trying to get you on the podcast, bro. We've been trying to get this popping for some months now, man. I was so glad to get you on here, man. Just because your story is going to inspire somebody. Your story is going to inform and educate somebody. We want to entertain, man, but we also want to educate people. And if a parent or a kid or uncle or whoever can watch this podcast and take some jewels that you said today and bring it to their child, we did our job at FanView. You know what I mean? And that's what it's all about, bro. So that's why I really, really wanted to get you on this podcast. And man, I just want to tell you I appreciate you. Man, I love what you're doing, in your career right now. Keep elevating, dog. I've been rooting for you since day one when we've been rooting each other head on. And I know God got nothing but blessings in store for you going forward, bro.
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate y'all having me. I do, and it's always good to come on and see some family, man.
Yeah,
So y'all keep doing what y'all do.
Those are the
You
facts.
know that. You know that.
He can't leave, G, without.
But before we go,
He can't leave without it. Can't leave without it.
we got to do Jordan's favorite. Here we go. Jordan's favorites. Here we go.
Gotta go.
Here we go.
Gotta do it.
Favorite football player of all time.
Ed Reed.
Woo! I thought you would have said Dion.
Can't say Dion no more. We're competitors.
I like that. You're right.
I love it.
You're right.
I love
Because he got Jawan Johnson. He got the number one corner committed to him right now to Louisiana from Lafayette Christian. You're right. Y'all are competitors. Let's see if y'all can get him flipped before signing day. You got a few months. All right.
I like that.
Yeah.
like that.
Favorite NBA player all time.
Allen Iverson.
Woo! The trendsetter.
Yeah,
The trendsetter.
he was okay to be in his own skin, and I think he kind of changed the generation with that.
He did. I think Iverson was the first one. I tell people about time, man. Listen, before Iverson, these tattoos didn't exist. You didn't
They wouldn't
have.
accept it.
They didn't accept it. I think only person who probably had tattoos was maybe Dennis Rodman, maybe
Yeah.
at that time. Iverson came in.
And people kind of gave him a pass
and
because he
people
was
gave him
weird.
pass because he was, exotic.
Yeah.
He didn't come in the lecture and stuff. And Pamela Anderson, they over there. But Iverson was the first one that was in his own skin with those tattoos,
With the do-rag.
the
With
do-rag,
the baggy clothes.
with the baggy clothes,
With the chains.
and he didn't come because the NBA was very formal. Like people came to the games, like the players.
They changed the rules
They were shirt
because
and
of
tie.
Allen Iverson.
Yeah, they were shirt and tie coming to them games. Man, I was a kid, man. We ain't know that.
Yeah.
So I can credit why it could be Allen Iverson.
Yeah. Trendsetter for
he's
sure.
trendsetter.
Because he had the coldest crossover ever. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true
He-
too.
He revolutionized the game with the crossover.
That.
Favorite sneaker all time.
I guess I gotta go with the Jays, man.
What number? What number?
What number?
The 12s.
The 12s?
Yeah.
Okay. That ain't bad. That ain't
It's
bad.
like I could do a pair of 12s in the day of the week.
He wasn't typical like most of these people, man. They coming on here and say the ones. Everybody saying ones.
Nobody
saying
nobody
ones.
like the ones like that coming up. I don't know what it
Turn
is.
the ones now, huh?
It's ones
Everybody
now.
wearing the ones. They go with anything though. They
Yeah.
so you can wear with anything.
You can
wear with a suit.
You can wear ones to wedding now.
Yeah, you can wear
You
whatever.
put wears on anything now.
Okay. Favorite movie all time.
Blindside.
That's one of my favorite for damn sure. Listen, that's
Sandra Bullock.
one of the only movies.
Oh my goodness. In that
That's
movie.
one of the only movies that I really shedded a tear.
Coach Frank was at Ole Miss whenever
Yeah,
all that was going on.
yeah. Because Orgeron was on the.
Mhm.
Yeah, he was on there. All right. Favorite car of all time.
Man,
Dream car.
I'm gonna say I'm not gonna go super exotic. I'm gonna say Escalade, man. I've been eyeing one, man.
Cadillac Escalade, put his feet in the blades.
I like it.
Escalade.
Favorite coach of all time, whether it's middle school, high school, college, wherever, who made the most impact on you?
I would say Coach Kyle saying he was my high school head coach, just because he helped shape who I am. You know what I mean, and being a father figure. Especially at an impressionable age. Whenever I needed that.
I like Coach Lassane. That's my dude. I gotta tell you a funny story about what happened with me and him. We was texting not too long ago. it's gonna blow your mind. Uh, if you wasn't in college football, what would Jordan Arcement be doing?
I mean, that's a good question. I mean, shoot, if I was like 6 inches taller, playing in NBA or something, I don't know. You know what I mean? Doing something around sports, even if it wasn't working in college. Something to help people, something to be involved in this sports industry. I guess my journey had kind of changed a few times on what I was doing, but it'll be something around that.
I mean, gotta ask you, man. Favorite artist, whether it's rap, R&B, who is it? Who in the headphones?
Man, I'll probably listen. I do listen to a lot of NBA young boy. I'll be honest. I
Young
know there's
boy.
that young generation. And I guess I love and I hate them. Right. And you'll see.
Right.
I go back and forth with some of the boys in the car when I change the song. Right. Whenever it's the Murder Man stuff. It's not really my
Right.
vibe. Unless we're
Right.
about to play a football game.
Right.
Then we could turn up a little bit. But
Right.
more or less, I think he has a variety of music and there's some good stuff in there. So I catch myself probably listening to rap more than anything else. And
Woo, young boy.
yeah,
I like Young Boy, but I just like I tell my son, you gotta have enough understanding to be able to comprehend some of the stuff that he's saying. You can't go out and try that in the real world.
yeah, no doubt. And
You know
that's
what I mean?
what I mean. I mean, he has mega influence, and I feel like he can
Yeah.
influence people in a different direction, which he says now that's the direction that he's headed. So we'll see. But that's not the whole genre. You know what I mean? It's kind of versatile to where it's some other
Right.
stuff. And I mean, I came up on different rap artists. You know what I mean? He just happens to be the one who I catch myself. I guess in the headphones more
Yeah.
than any other.
You got more tracks.
Hmm.
I don't know. I listen. I give Young Boy a lot of credit for his influence on music. It's taking me time because I was just like I'm out. I'm out. Him, the baby. I'm out.
Right.
It's taking time to start accepting the fact that you know what, this is their generation of music. I had my era. I had my juvenile. You know what I mean?
Who's performing in Baton Rouge on Saturday?
Yeah. I've had my era of Nas, Wayne. You know what I mean? That timeline of music. T.I., Ludacris. I'm just giving some names.
I'm a
Jay-Z,
guy myself.
Hove. I had my time. This is their time.
Yeah, and
So-
I'm
and I-
versatile,
and I-
man. I can listen to a lot of different things. You know what I mean? Obviously, as we came up, there was different people who were hot at different
At different times.
Yeah.
Young boy.
Toughest player you either played against or coached against.
Man, that's a good question. Probably Jarvis Landry, and played against in high school. That was my last high school game. Jarvis did some ridiculous things in that game, or maybe Kenny Hilliard. I played
That's what
against
I was
him in high
thinking,
school,
Kenny
and he had. I mean, he was unbelievable in high school. He was really tough to stop. Shoot, I mean, this is Louisiana, bro. There've been a ton. Those are the two that I guess come to mind the quickest when it comes to played against for sure.
Oh, Kenny hear you, man. And his bosses, I heard.
He was a load.
A
He was a
load.
load. I want to see he like top 5 all time leading rusher.
He was one, and then Nick
Yeah,
Brissett
Yep.
took the title, and then now Trey Holly took the title
Trey.
from Nick.
Yeah. And then Puka had the most in one
The
season.
most in one season.
Yeah.
Most one season.
Ooh, man, I didn't coach against Puka, but man, he was incredible.
Yeah.
You know what
Yes.
I mean? He was incredible.
Yeah.
He
And
was,
he's the least imposing out of all of them.
yeah.
I had never seen anything like that. It was like every time we went to the game, he rushed for 300 plus. It was ridiculous. It was
Yes.
ridiculous what he did that year.
Yeah.
I was like, how can a 5'8" a guy got to be every bit of 160 pounds?
Right.
Way. I don't know how. How?
That's what made it more impressive.
That what made him so impressive. You like they gonna
And everybody knew he was getting the ball.
He has 9 toes.
Yeah. Crazy.
It's crazy, man. Listen, We want to thank everybody for tuning in to the FanView podcast. Listen, again, subscribe to every FanView podcast if you're on YouTube. It's FanView podcast. If you're on IG, it's FanView Live. If you're on Twitter, it's FanView Nola. Don't forget about our TikTok, FanView podcast. And then more importantly, don't forget to follow G-Sportz. I can't help you if you're underneath the rock, baby. We're all in the digital age, baby. Digital content, baby. Get your game up, get your likes up, get your worries up.
My dude, man, Jordan Arcement, man, Director of Player Development for LSU. Appreciate you coming on the podcast, man. Like Fred said, man, make sure y'all subscribe, share, tell a friend to tell a friend.
There it is. Y'all already know what it is. Can't stop, won't stop. Listen. Till next time, again, we out, y'all.
Look, y'all can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at BFredJones.
Follow me on Instagram and Twitter. On Instagram, _G-Sportz with a Z on the end. And on Twitter, G_Sports with a Z on the end.
You can follow me on Instagram at big_homie_hen and on Twitter at HeyYoU15.